around and disregard it. Sweep you off the ground, show you what heart is. Standing strong and proud, nothing can knock it. Let's get it started, it's the hardest. Talk around, don't disregard it. Sweep you off the ground, show you what heart is. Standing strong and proud, nothing can knock it. Let's get it started. Yeah,
get your boots ready. We're about to go on a trip where we wrestle, nobody settling or calling it quits. You're here for the grit, betcha this stuff is amazing. You're stumbling, welcome to the bump in the apron. Step into it, the hardest part of the ring. Here to bring fun, yeah, and this art he is king. It's the best thing, making sure you don't tap out. Don't go soft with the hardest podcast out. And it's not just another one, it's clear. Off the rest, in this content, none contest. Take the nonsense off the steps. You know it's nothing but pure gems when it's coming off the chest. Get it? Now it's time to sit and relax. Get your mind blown away, ain't no skipping this track. Have you paying more attention, no listening gap. Get everything I ever wanted, no giving it back. Yeah.
Fuck, there's a coffee stain on my shirt. Whatever. Ooh, is my door open? Cock meat sandwich, dude. Ooh, what's up, everybody? Welcome to the Apron Bump Podcast. I am your host, the hardest part of the ring, known in some circles as Kyle. We are here today. Man, look, what a weekend of wrestling, huh? I mean, a week, really. Shit on my face. I mean, obviously, the most stupendous two-night WrestleMania of all time concluded this past week. A great fucking show. I'm gonna be honest. I mean, we make fun of the stupendous and a lot of the build to it, and you know, normal WWE shenanigans at foot. But both nights, tremendous nights of action. Just fun wrestling, and not to. I just wanted to touch on it a little bit, but both nights, man, were just super fun. People, you know, only this many minutes of wrestling, maybe this match, was only the 78 stars and it could have been 85. Like, who gives a fuck, man? It was a fun show. NXT was pretty fun too. I mean, yeah, and then you have like Ring of Honor, the Supercard show, and I mean, AEW's still doing their thing. You know, AAA, didn't they have a show or something? I don't know. Lots of wrestling as per usual with WrestleMania weekend. Cody Rhodes returning to WWE is just insanity. Roman Reigns becoming the undisputed champion. You got the Hall of Fame, of course. Undertaker getting inducted, a huge moment. Scott Steiner with a live mic. You got what else you got? You got Braun Breaker becoming the NXT champion. You got Ezekiel debuting. Lots of big things happening in the world of wrestling. And I know what you're thinking. Well, hardest part of the ring. With all of this in mind, I gotta get your thoughts on Cobra. Gotta get your thoughts on Renegade defending the TV title. Gotta get your thoughts on the amount of cocaine that Hulk Hogan is on in 1995. There's just so much. Very topical, you see, this episode. Fall Brawl 1995. Man, really brings you back down to earth, huh? Like all this great wrestling I'm talking about, and then we're back here roughly almost 20 years ago. And we have war games. We have war games, and the Hulkamaniacs versus the Dungeon of Doom. Oh, right. Shark is here, everybody. Not to be outdone by Johnny B. Bad is back. He has been a few pay-per-views since we've seen him, so glad to see this blackface idiot back on our screens. We get Renegades here, of course. DDP and his Build-A-Bear ass gimmick, whatever he is. And you got, Colonel Parker and Sister Sherry are fucking in the middle of the ring. You got Monster, the Big Show's here. He's running over Hulk Hogan's motorcycle. Well, I'm getting into it. This is like one of these trailers for a movie when all the good parts are in the trailer, but don't want to step on the show too much, but man, there is a lot of bullshit the show, and it is probably the most fun kind of fodder for a podcast. So no complaints here, but by golly, if I bought this pay-per-view, I probably wouldn't do anything. I'd be pretty upset though. um but that being said, this big period of time in wrestling, because we're here in September of 1995. And any WCW fans know we are fresh off the debut of Monday Nitro. That's right. You got in the Mall of America, that first episode, and a couple episodes after that as well. You got Lex Luger debuting. Of course, that famous moment, just showing up in the aisleway, and the really the first one to cross the line, at least the first big one. From WWF to WCW, and the wars are thoroughly begun at this point. WCW, we talk about it a little bit in the episode, but they make they don't sugarcoat it. they are going head to head with WWF now, and it's I think we're entering an exciting time in wrestling. So really, really excited about that. Like I said, we talk more about that in the episode itself, but really interesting time for wrestling, and really interesting show, I guess. Interesting is the word I'll use for it. But if you like this kind of episode, if you want to hear me ramble more about the wrestling wars of the 90s, why don't you just go over, why don't you just go to apronbump.com, and you'll see an episodes tab towards the top right corner. And you can go there and you can select WCW if you want. And that'll bring you to all the WCW reviews that I've done thus far, going in chronological order, starting in the middle of 1994. Or if you want, you could even select Wrestling Wars of the 90s, and that'll bring you to chronologically all the episodes I've done for WWF, WCW, and ECWs, the three major companies at play here, and how all the interactions between them. And it's been a really, really fun time. And we're not even at the peak of it yet. So go check that out. All my full episodes are there at apronbump.com. Check out the merch as well. Buy yourself a t-shirt. Buy yourself a cat of nine tails, whatever you want. Rate, review. What else? What else do I need to plug? I think that's about it, right? But yeah, to join me on this splendiferous episode here, we got Troy from the Main Event Marks podcast. You can find their podcast wherever you listen to podcasts, on YouTube as well. And really fun group of guys over there. Troy was a pleasure to have on this episode. Just a hilarious time. So go check out the Main Event Marks. Of course, they talk all kinds of wrestling. They do a lot of retro stuff. So of course, if you're a fan of my podcast, you'll love what they do as well. They have fun with it. And that's the point of all of this, right? So go check that out. And yeah, let's just get right into it, baby. Let's chug some Agent Orange and let's get into it. WCW Fall Brawl 1995 with myself and Troy from the Main Event Marks podcast. So Fall Brawl 1995, little WCW action. Did you get a chance to watch the show?
I've seen the show multiple times. To be honest with you, it's been a little while since I saw it, but I took notes on it the last couple times I watched it, so that's what I'm going
right. That's right.
Now.
Yeah, because you covered the show recently on your own podcast, right?
Yeah, I want to say, without going back and looking at my schedule, like right in front of me, I think we did it as like a bonus show this was August, right? Or no, September, last September.
Yeah.
Mm.
Yeah, this is a show that'll stick with you, at least certain parts of it. So definitely understand the you wouldn't really need to rewatch it for this, for sure, because there's some there's some good on this show, but man, this show is just running off cocaine and bad ideas, I think. What were your overall thoughts on it, I guess, before we get too deep into the matches?
I mean, the show itself was it was fine. I mean, it was better than average. I thought it wasn't like the worst piece of crap I'd ever seen. That being said,
right.
I went back and on a former podcast I used to do, we decided, my co-host Greg and I decided 1995 gets a really bad rap. So let's go
Mhm.
back. Let's really see if it deserves that bad rap. And we watched every pay-per-view from the three companies, or three major U.S. companies at the time,
Mhm.
all through '95. And yeah, it deserves the rap it gets. But WCW was like slightly above. Like WWF was like really boring and kind of sucked. WCW started out that way, and I feel like toward like the closer you get to '96, it starts shooting up, and this is
Right.
where it kind of starts to take off.
Yeah. Yeah. Because I do the same thing on my podcast too. WWF, WCW, and ECW, and yeah, I don't like WCW stinks. Like it's there's like a few gems in there, but for the most part, it's just like it just doesn't hold up over time, I don't think. WWF does have quite a bit of fun stuff. Even like the stuff that's bad has like entertainment value to it, I think.
I was
Uh
just so bored with it. I don't know. Like,
yeah, I mean it's there's nothing really too compelling. Um like in the long term, I guess. But it's fun to kind of go back and watch every once in a while. But if I was like just watching that, like yeah, it'd be cumbersome to say the least.
well, people might not like. They'd probably think, "Oh, you're crazy," unless you actually go back and watch it. One of the shining lights for me for WCW in the year '95 was Johnny B. Bad. He opened every pay-per-view. I mean,
Yeah.
I'm being facetious, but he opened almost every pay-per-view, and he always had a banger. Like every time. He was goofy as hell. He
Yeah.
was over the top weird, but his matches were almost always great. So
Almost always. Yeah. At
yeah.
least especially in relation to the other matches on the card, which
Oh yeah.
definitely if we're just talking about match quality, I mean there's one other match on the card that I would compare it to, but otherwise, yeah, for sure.
Well,
Him and his
Dungeon of
stupid
Doom,
tan.
man. I mean, Dungeon of Doom's running wild at this time, man. That was
Oh,
I
God.
my co-host Greg always points out there was this interview that Kevin Nash had done on the old, you remember the old Legends roundtable they used to do?
Yeah, yeah.
Yeah, Nash said something about, in '95 in WWF they were watching WCW. He's like, well, we had to come up with something to counter that Dungeon of Doom angle, man, because that was on fire.
It should have been. It should have been burned in a barrel somewhere. It was.
Yeah, yeah.
Oh, it's Dungeon of Doom is because I didn't grow up watching WCW, so I've only heard of it after the fact, and
Yeah, same here.
I'm kind of reliving it now, and it is worse than you could have imagined. I mean, it's literally like if you didn't know anything about the Dungeon of Doom and you were just like, hey, do a parody of what a Kevin Sullivan group would be. Like that's what they are.
Oh
It's just
no.
so goofy. They're like not menacing or intimidating at all. Like there's no reason to be threatened by them. It's just like a Halloween store come to life. And it's just awful in every way.
And they ate up a lot of TV time. So there's that.
Yeah.
And then, and as it went on, uh, the weird thing is, you know, when Conan first came into WCW, still doing the luchador stuff, colorful, whatever comes out in the
Yeah.
mask. I mean, that's still a stretch to fit into the Dungeon of Doom, but he doesn't go into the Dungeon of Doom until he starts dressing like, you know, a typical, like some guy in East LA, you know, you'd see whatever,
Yeah.
like he did for most of his career. And he's introduced to like my, we always laugh because when they announce it, he's like, he says Dungeon of Doom for life, Vato, and we're like, what? Like that just doesn't fit. The group was stupid to begin with, but that was like, Conan's so cool. Why is he
Yeah.
stuck with this?
I was actually made aware of this a few weeks ago on a TNA review I was doing because, of course, Conan was there, and in
Yeah,
like 2005, he was still wrestling. He was, you know, the wife beater, the baggy pants, and all that stuff. Pretty much, I
yep.
guess, what he was in Dungeon of Doom. And my guest Matt Ritter, he was like, you know, Conan was just like this in the Dungeon of Doom. I was like, what? That doesn't it like doesn't make sense, but it also like does because it's so random. And it's like there's
Well,
no really rhyme or reason to anything. So it's like, yeah, might as well.
well, and then they have Big Bubba in there too, you know, because you always got to have you always got to have a guy like Conan and a super white like hillbilly dude like Big Bubba that dresses like a
Mhm.
biker. And it just, and then they're thrown in there with people like Zodiac and Shark and whatever
We'll,
else.
we'll talk a lot about the Dungeon of Doom here at the end of the show here, but
Oh yeah,
man, I didn't know Big Bubba was a part of it. Actually, was he just Big Bubba?
yeah, yeah. Uh, I specifically remember covering around. It was after they kicked out Shark, dropped the Shark gimmick, and he was just not John Tenta. I think it was in '96. Big Bubba like helped kick him out of the Dungeon of Doom, and then they got into a feud
Hmm.
because he like shaved Tenta's beard, so that started a feud. Yeah,
Right.
and it culminated in the epic Johnson City Silver Dollars match, where it was a sock full of silver dollars on a pole that they had to hit
Dude,
each other with.
was that was Bash at the Beach '96, right?
Yeah, yeah, that's right. Yeah, because I knew it was in our archives because I was like, I know I
Hmm.
watched this crap. I just blocked it out of my mind of when it was. It was so bad.
Yeah, because I watched that somewhat a few months ago, and that match is a spectacle because the silver dollars, right? That's what was hanging.
Yeah,
It was so high in the air, like unnecessarily high. It was like 20 feet in the air, and you had to climb these poles. You had
yeah,
John Tenta half a head of hair. Like it's just stupid.
yeah, yeah. Jimmy Hart had to shimmy up that freaking pole just to get the damn thing.
Boss man wasn't doing that shit, so you gotta get
No,
Jimmy Hart.
he chucked him up there. He's like, go for it, dude.
Yeah, that's they had to do it. These two big bastards. Um,
Yeah,
but in this timeline where we're at, because we're still a little whiles away from that, Fall Brawl, September of '95, which just so happens to be a few weeks after the debut of Nitro. And like I said, I didn't grow up watching WCW, so I have no context to what this was like. Did you, by any chance, grow up watching WCW? Or you said you didn't, right?
Uh, no, actually, my first introduction to wrestling wasn't until the road to Wrestle. Well, right before the road to WrestleMania 14.
Okay.
So, I started getting into WWF. Then I didn't know what WCW was until I had neighbors like two doors down. That's all they watched, and
Yeah.
then I started watching it because I would play the old Super Nintendo games, and most of the guys that were in those games were now in WCW. So I'm
Yeah.
like, as a little kid, you're confused. You're like, so why is he Kevin Nash and why is that Kurt Hennig? Like in this game, they're
Hmm.
Diesel and Mr. Perfect. But that kind of got me watching a little bit of WCW. But I find the older I get, the more I appreciate WCW.
Yeah, for sure. Yeah, definitely. I mean, if we're comparing Nitro to Raw in this time period, Nitro definitely has like a breath of life into it that Raw is definitely missing at this point.
Yeah,
Just a new aspect of being live, and they're like very much like they're not like sugarcoating that they're at war with WWF. It's very clear. It's like a constant theme throughout the show. Like, no, this is where the big boys play. You're not about playing kitty or whatever Hogan said to Luger that one time.
yeah,
Um,
right.
but yeah, so that's a thing.
Well, then you had the epic Steve Mongo McMichael on commentary, man, with his Chihuahua.
Of course, it'd be ridiculous without the Chihuahua. Like,
Oh yeah, wasn't it Pepe or some crap?
I think
I
that
know
was
that was
Chavo's dog.
Chavo's hobby horse, but I for some reason I was thinking that was also the name of. I know I just said the words Chavo's hobby horse, but
Yeah, no, it's funny because it's absolutely a fact, and
yeah,
it
it's
shouldn't
like
be.
you can't make this up. Why would you try? But
Yeah,
yeah, no, I think that I keep thinking the Chihuahua's name was also Pepe, but I could be completely wrong. Somebody can correct me on that.
you know where society is in 1995. You have a Chihuahua. It's either gonna be Pepe or Juan or Taco Bell or so. It's gonna be something like that.
Yep.
Um, But speaking of Taco Bell, this gentleman here does not eat a lot of Taco Bell. Johnny B. Bad. He is, like you said, always kicking off these WCW pay per views. It's for the number one contendership for the United States title, because the champion Sting, of course, is in the War Games match in the main event. So this match is Johnny B. Bad versus Brian Pillman, Flying Brian Pillman. Uh, Sorry, my first bullet here is Johnny shoots his load all over the crowd. I forgot that I typed that. But yeah, he comes out. He has
You're not wrong.
the fuck yeah, the cape, the gun. What did he have a name for the gun?
The Bad Blaster.
Oh, fuck this guy. The Bad Blaster.
You know what? In a weird, perverse way, I dig it.
Do you? You big fan of the bad?
I don't know what it's such a stupid effing gimmick. But I dig it. I don't know why. I guess anything's better than Wild Man Mark Marrow, but
you got a point there. But yeah, and you got Brian Pillman, which I don't think he's here too much longer, right? When does he go to the WWF?
Oh shit. 96? Sometime in 96, honestly. Yeah, crap. Damn it, because I just covered the ECW show that he was on when he's between companies.
Right.
And he threatened to pull out his Johnson and piss in the ring.
Wrestling is just the best.
Yeah. Well, and then the crowd chanted, "Let him piss." So that was, fun. But
they're nice people. They're considerate.
Oh yeah.
But yeah, the opening match here is actually very good. It felt unnecessarily long, but it was a good match for the most part. It had a very slow start though, I must say. It was just, especially like in the 94 pay-per-views and from WCW, it felt like every match had like a template where it'd be like a quick start and then a rest holds for 20 minutes and then the finish. And that's kind of what this match felt like. But the last like 10 or so minutes were really fun, I thought.
I love this match.
Yeah. What, anything stick out to you in particular about this match?
I mean, the wrestling itself was great. I didn't take a lot of notes on the wrestling itself because I just watched and enjoyed. I did say you neglected to mention, not only did he do the Bad Blast, he was throwing frisbees into the crowd when he was coming to the ring too. So that was another.
Did he bring the frisbee, or did somebody throw a frisbee in the ring?
He carried a stack of like neon frisbees, like the Dynamic Dudes used to, and he chucked them into the crowd. That was he was just like a walking pile of gimmicks. So
yeah.
And then Bobby Heenan, I took some notes on like crowd and commentary. Bobby Heenan had pointed out a young kid in the crowd that said Bobby Heenan for president. And he said, "That's the mayor of Asheville right there."
Of course it is. Bobby Heenan. He's just you do a whole episode on just things Bobby Heenan says.
Yeah, he popped me multiple times in WCW.
He's the best.
Tony Schiavone there described the match as a Donnybrook at one point, and not in a sarcastic manner. So that one, I was like, all right.
I don't know if I'd say it was a Donnybrook. I don't know if that's the word for this, but
he used some interesting language back in the day.
Yeah, he hasn't really changed. He's still kind of the same Tony Schiavone, but you gotta love him. You gotta love him.
It's not. I mean, now it's becoming more of a popular opinion, I guess, because his podcast took off so well. But I grew up as a huge fan of his. Like, I thought he was great, and apparently, and the older I got, I found out I was like in a minority. Apparently, people hated him.
Really,
I don't get it. Like, he always got crapped on in the Wrestling Observer. People just grew up not liking him for one reason or another, but I always dug his commentary.
Maybe, I mean, he wasn't the most like calling moves. Like, he wasn't really that guy. He was kind of just like, I mean, he would walk you through like emotionally what's happening in the ring. And I can kind of get that from maybe like the purist standpoint. Like, oh yeah, that's a three-handled moss-covered family credenza. Call it.
Yeah.
Like, but I thought him and Heenan were a great pair. I thought their chemistry was really good.
And it was a contrast from before him. You had Jim Ross calling, and I love Jim Ross. I'm not putting him down, but when he was, especially in WCW, man, it's just like, well, you know, he played 2 years of football at Who Gives a Crap State, and you know, butt screw your cousin Iowa or something. Like, who cares, man? Like, I always hated that.
Like, he still does it.
I know. I'm like, I don't care where he went to. Like, some of that stuff thrown in once in a while is fine, but he would go off on a tangent like, well, you know, his Sooners didn't do well today, you know, on the football field. I'm like, who cares, man? Like
He's,
I'm
he
watching wrestling.
meanders. He like I was watching AEW the other night, and he was like, "Oh, Red Velvet, her dad was a fighter," and he just keeps going on and on about it. Like, who gives a fuck? She's a wrestler.
Yep. Undertaker famously said when he came to WWF, I guess Bruce Pritchard was saying Undertaker was like, if he brings up my college basketball career, I'm gonna snap.
This fucking guy in the trench coat and is burying people in caskets.
Yeah, right. Well, he played center for such a like,
Hell of a point guard before he was a dead fucking zombie.
well, he was killing it on the court before he killed it in the ring.
Why was that spot on? But anyways, JR's not here, but you know who is? Johnny B. Bad, unfortunately. He's oh man, they're just headlocking each other. They're the hammer locks were aplenty in this match. But there were a few spurts of greatness in the beginning. You have Johnny, he suplexes Brian from the apron to the outside, which looked pretty brutal. Just took a flat bump Brian did on the floor.
People forget how good Brian was in his like before he had his accident.
Oh yeah, I think yeah, because he's kind of we're past Hollywood blondes, and the story of this match kind of is Pillman's starting to turn heel a little bit, like he's starting to get a little aggravated, and you can tell like just by him coming out, he has like a different demeanor on his face than he has like in the previous months. Johnny puts out his hand and Pillman doesn't shake it, and then later on Pillman offers his hand and then Johnny doesn't shake it. Like it's a whole like pissing contest kind of thing. But then I should note that there's a 20-minute time limit on this match, and eventually the 5-minute warning gets called out by Michael Buffer, and it's at this point where there's like a sense of urgency, I guess, by the competitors, and you have Johnny comes off the top rope and gets hit with a drop kick out of midair by Pillman, which is pretty nice. You got a nice sit-out power bomb by Johnny B. Bad. You got a tombstone by Brian Pillman. All of these, you're getting 2 counts. And then, oh my God, Johnny B. Bad hits the Tutti Frutti.
You didn't misspeak, by the way.
It's his finishing move. One of his 12 finishing moves is called the Tutti Frutti, which is like, I don't know. It seemed like Tyler Bate, he has the bop and bang where he like holds up one hand and then punches the guy with the other. That's kind of like what this was. At least like it seemed like it to me.
Was this I forget. There's one where he front flips over the top rope.
That's let me check my notes here. The bad mood. The bad mood.
Okay, because I thought is the Tutti Frutti the shooting star, or is that the bad day? Or...
No. The bad day is the top rope Hurricane Rana. The bad what's the other one? I didn't know he had a fucking another one. The shooting star.
Yeah, shooting. Yeah, then what the hell is the Tutti Frutti? I forget what was that. Is that just the right hook he does, or like,
he just punches the guy? Like it calls it the Tutti Frutti. So now it finishes people.
Yeah, he had like 5,000 names for his moves that I forget. They're all freaking stupid.
Comes out here with a bad blaster and gives people bad chlamydia. But lots of 2 counts here towards the end. And then it's 20 minutes expires. We have a time limit draw on our hands, but the ref makes it an executive decision because after all, we have to have a challenger for Sting. So now we're going to sudden death overtime, in which I ask, why bother even having a time limit in the first place? But speaking of rules, just gotta bring this up. The over the top rope disqualification rule. I guess that's dead, but the commentators didn't really get the memo because there's several points in this match where people just get tossed over the top rope. It's like, oh, he's gonna get disqualified, but I guess not. All right, we're still wrestling.
Yeah.
So
that was a stupid ass holdover from the old NWA days, and I hated it. Yeah. It was the flattest, most weakest ending to any match. It was used at least once per show, and no, I didn't get it. It should have, died long ago.
Sense. Stone Cold faced Great Muta, and that match ended with an over the top rope disqualification. So,
yep.
But now we're in overtime. So the 2 guys are brawling on the outside. We got air raid crashes, top rope, sunset top rope sunset flip from Johnny B. Bad, tornado DDT from Pillman. Then we get the bad day and the bad mood from Johnny B. Bad, but that apparently is not enough, not bad enough to finish the match. But ultimately, the finish comes when both guys run. They both hit the ropes on opposite sides, and they hit a cross body on each other. But somehow Johnny lands on top of Pillman and gets the win. Weird finish, but Johnny B. Bad wins and is now the number one contender for the U.S. title. So, like I said, long match, but I feel like they're trying to give this kind of epic feel that differentiates themselves from WWF in a way. That was kind of my impression of why this happened the way it did.
I just have to say, like, a time limit draw in the first match. Is this AEW?
Yeah, in a lot of ways, it is.
Yeah, and I don't want anybody taking this as, oh, he's crap on AEW, but like because I like AEW, but like Tony Khan comes out and it's like, oh, we're nothing like WCW. We don't want to be anything like WCW. It's like,
yeah, you're like WCW a little bit.
Yeah, it's like, your ratings don't mean a damn thing. I mean, come on. So, or rankings, I should say, not ratings.
Mm-hmm.
But yeah, dude, I don't know. I really enjoyed this match. You could tell they were getting tired as hell by the end of it because they were hitting a crap ton of high spots.
Yeah, like one after the other.
Yeah, and I was just really disappointed the fact that like both these guys would go on to do less important stuff in the WWF. And obviously, Pillman had like more like headline stuff out of the ring in WWF, but he wasn't the competitor he was here, obviously, for the injury reasons. And I don't know what the hell happened with Mero. It just didn't click.
Yeah, I guess I mean, because we're approaching one of the hottest periods in wrestling, so it's easy to get lost in the shuffle, I suppose, with all the stars that are on the horizon. So,
and this gimmick wasn't going to play in during the Attitude Era.
No, not at all. Brian did get a good amount of shine, especially like in the Hart Foundation and his whole deal with Steve Austin and stuff like that. So, but yeah. So after that, we got a Ric Flair promo, and whoever's anybody listening to this, whatever you're picturing in your head, that's exactly what it is. It's a Ric Flair promo, and he's going to be facing Arn Anderson later in the show, which is crazy that this match happened.
Yeah,
and I think I mentioned it before, but we're in Asheville, North Carolina, so we are thoroughly in Horseman country here. So big match, especially for the local audience. And Flair is basically making it clear that he loves Arn Anderson. They both bonded, through their tough upbringings as growing up, and he's just whoa, just a lot of yelling and shit. So
yeah, Ric Flair had a really tough upbringing, being adopted by two doctors in a wealthy part of North Carolina, or Minnesota, or whatever, from growing up there, and then being a football star, going to college on a free ride and all that stuff. Hard upbringing, man, I'll tell you.
It's a tough life, man. It's a tough life.
Yeah,
we all right. Some people just get that deck or hand, or whatever the fucking saying is.
Dries his tears with $100 bills.
So. Poor guy, just helicoptering away nowadays. But speaking of helicopters,
oh god,
we got a couple of soldiers in this next. Fuck God. So we got Cobra versus Sergeant Craig Pittman. It's Cobra. I was gonna do research on this Cobra fella, but be honest, I didn't fucking care. Cobra is a G.I. Joe, right?
I think they're both supposed to be Marines, and Sergeant Craig Pittman legit was, I believe, a Marine.
I believe
that's why his nickname is Pitbull, because that's like the unofficial logo for the Marine Corps, is like a pit bull.
Oh,
or Bull. I guess Bulldog.
well, his
I
last
should
name's
know
Pittman,
this.
so
Yeah. Well, you know who you don't have to do research. You know who Cobra is.
he's Jeff Farmer, isn't he?
Yeah.
Jumpin Jeff Farmer.
Yeah, the fakes, the NWO Sting.
Of course.
Yeah. So he was big in Japan. I'm not even joking.
Yeah, I mean, yeah. The reason I know Jumpin Jeff Farmer, have you seen that famous promo of his where it's like a really bad promo? Fuck, I don't know where it might be WCW. Yeah, I can't do it justice. You have to go watch it. Anybody listening, you have to go watch it. But he's like, I'm gonna beat you. And it's been a while since I've seen it. I forget exactly what he says, but it's hilarious.
Earlier we talked to Jumpin Jeff Farmer. Let's go now to that interview. Folks, there's Jumpin Jeff Farmer. Jeff, a while back, what a match you had with Motley.
Yep. Probably the hardest match I ever had in my life. But I don't like it when things aren't going my way. Motley Cruz, you turn the tables on me. You turn the tables in a wrong way. You got me mad now. I've stood around. I've listened to everything you had to say. I did everything necessary. But when you turn around and you backstab me one way or another, and you cheat me out of what's rightfully mine, that's when I get angry. Now I'm the one doing the challenging. I'm issuing a challenge to you, Motley Cruz. Get in the ring with me. This time, I'm going full force.
Jumpin Jeff Farmer. Now let's go to the ring.
So we got Cobra versus Sergeant Craig Pittman here. And so Cobra comes out, which, by the way, his music, if you want to call it that, is like just a Morse code, like beep, boop, 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 beep, beep, beep. Yeah. And really get you pumped up to see him wrestle in the old squared circle. And then you got Sergeant Craig Pittman. His music plays, but he doesn't come out. Instead, one of his privates comes out. And the private, he comes out, and he gets on the apron. He's jaw jacking with Cobra. Cobra's like, "Hey, you go back there, and you tell Pittman to come out here." And as they're just jawing back and forth, Craig Pittman repels from the ceiling unnecessarily. He could have just, I don't know, walked through the crowd, like everybody does. But
what fun would that be? Come on.
He is a soldier after all. He is a Marine. So repels from his helicopter, I guess, is what they'd like you to believe. He
repels on the future fake Sting. How about that?
That's long-term storytelling right there.
Damn straight.
So Pittman, he lands. I guess he undoes the harness, and he, again, very unnecessarily, army crawls, because remember, this is War Games, this show. So there's 2 rings. So he lands in the second ring, and he army crawls from that ring to the other ring under the ropes, gets up, has a belt in his hand, I think, right? And then he just wraps it around the throat of Cobra and starts choking him. And then a lot of shit happens. And then Pittman wins with the Code Red, which is not the flipping power bomb that you're probably familiar with. It's an arm bar. So Pittman wins with the arm bar in very short fashion, but with all the effort that he made to sneak up on Cobra, I commend him for that. Thoughts?
That is literally the only the only compliment I had for this entire match was on a positive note. That was an original way to start a match.
Yeah.
I did take some notes from. I gotta break down this feud just a little bit,
please.
I got some of these from Uncle Dave Meltzer, because it was just hilarious the way he put it.
Can I guess? Can I just guess what the storyline is?
Go for
it. Did one of them leave the other for dead in war?
Yeah.
Really?
Yeah. Yeah. Kind of. Okay. Well, I'll just say this and then I'll break it down what actually happened, because it's dumber than it sounds. But Meltzer said he was talking about Cobra's gimmick. He said he was a member of the CIA who Pittman left stranded in either a desert or a jungle in either Vietnam or Desert Storm or maybe Korea or maybe even in the Civil War.
That's pretty funny.
They were all over the map. And then he says that Pittman left Cobra stranded, but from my understanding, Cobra left Pittman stranded. And that's why I was confused, because I'm like, because Dave didn't understand it clearly. I don't understand it. I was like, why is he the babyface when he left Pittman stranded for dead?
Right.
But maybe I was wrong. I don't know. But nobody seems to know what the hell's going on with this feud. Nobody gave a damn.
Yeah. It's just very, the story's very, hey, they're military, okay? Watch them be military people. That's the only logic I think that went into it.
The other, to show how little anybody gave a damn about it during the match, which was only less than a minute and a half long, if you want to call it a match. A man is choking another man to death. Meanwhile, they're just plugging Nitro for the next night. They're like, make sure to listen into to Nitro, and Heenan says the announcers are Eric Bischoff and Steve McNuggets.
That's hilarious.
Yeah.
Yeah, just casual murder occurring before your eyes. But make sure to check on call the hotline if you want to know where the funeral is.
Yeah. All right. We got a hot tip for you on the WCW hotline. Somebody may or may not be coming in today, tomorrow, or never. Call and pay me a ton of money.
Please. Are you familiar with Lucha Underground at all?
I've seen clips, but never a full show.
Okay. They did almost an identical storyline involving Killshot and Dante. I forget what his name is. But it's Swerve Scott, who was played a Killshot, who was like a military guy, but he wore a mask. And,
that's what the gimmick was? Okay.
Yeah, and then there was basically a guy he left for dead in the military. I forget what the exact circumstances were, but it's funny how like that's why I was able to guess kind of what it was, because it's just wrestling kind of just bases itself off the past all the time. So
Lucha Underground was cool for some things, but it just I had a friend who kept up with it, and he's like, yeah, I tuned out as soon as they got the Infinity Gauntlet.
Yeah, that's a good time to tune out. Seasons, like, if you started like halfway through season 1 and watched like until halfway through season 3, that's like all gold. But yeah, Brian Cage gets an Infinity Gauntlet and he starts killing people. Yeah, it becomes stupid.
Yeah.
You got Jack Swagger's world champion. It's all stupid. But
is he? I did not know that one.
He's still, I guess today, the Lucha Underground champion, because that's when they went defunct. And so I guess it's his fault, I suppose.
Well, I mean, hell, what a feather in your cap, man.
Yeah.
You just hang that one on the wall.
I bet he does. He doesn't have a lot. He has a lot of wall space. Let's put it that way.
Oh God.
But fuck, man, I'm like, I keep forgetting all the shit that happened on this show.
This is a treasure trove of bullshit.
Dude, I swear to you, what I have written down here is Paul Orndorff bullshit.
That says it all.
So
good night, everybody.
Yeah, that's the show. So I guess it's like a pre-recorded thing from a previous live event, or because it wasn't Nitro, it wasn't Saturday night, it was like WCW. Do you remember what it was? It was like prime time.
Oh God, I think it was main event or
something
worldwide.
Like that. Worldwide.
Worldwide.
That's what it was.
Mm-hmm.
So I guess he lost a match against Macho Man, and Paul Orndorff, he's been struggling lately. He hasn't exactly been racking up the wins. He lost to Renegade at Bash at the Beach. He's lost himself. Don't you worry. We'll get to Renegade.
God bless Paul Orndorff for putting his ass over.
Somebody had to carry that ass.
Yeah, right.
But Paul Orndorff, he goes into his locker room, he slams his towel, he's like, gosh darn it, I don't even know who I am anymore. And it's just quick cuts to him, walking in various directions in his locker room. He's banging his head against the mirror in the locker. I don't even know who I am anymore.
Well, yeah, because a good time to question yourself is always right after losing to the Macho Man.
Yeah, what a pussy, right? And
You couldn't even beat him. What good are you to us now?
but then lo and behold, Gary Spivey appears. What can you tell me about Gary Spivey?
Gary Spivey of the Psychic Companions Network?
Yeah, I guess that's who he is.
That's exactly what he like. That's exactly what he says. Paul Orndorff, that is pronouns, pal.
Yeah. I forgot that's it. Wow. Yeah, because nobody knows who Gary Spivey is, I guess.
And for being a professional wrestler for like well over a decade at this point, Orndorff, he's done promos, and he's been on camera. He acts like this is first day of acting class.
Dude, this just strikes me as him getting a bad script. I'm gonna be honest, but
It's a bad script, and you couldn't like Patrick Stewart would struggle making this work, but still, it's so. I'm gonna go with he was like, why should I give a shit?
yeah, yeah,
That's got to be it, because like he shouldn't. This is awful.
That's what I was asking myself as I was watching this.
Yeah,
He's because Gary Spivey, if I don't know anybody unaware, I guess he's a psychic. His hair is a big sponge on his head.
Yeah, it looks like Epcot Center, or like the big ball at Epcot. Yeah.
Yes, good call. And I don't know. Gary's like, "Hey, you're Mr. Wonderful," and Paul's like, "I am Mr. Wonderful," and then it's that repeated over and over again for I don't know 25 minutes. It felt like, and
yeah. While he looks into a mirror.
Like Gary Spivey's here to give Paul the vision that he's Mr. Wonderful. So can't wait to see how that plays out.
I just one more quick thing about this. Well, first of all, I'd be remiss if I didn't mention we get his epic future theme from this. I don't know if you remember that.
I don't. How does that go?
It was like it sounded like a beauty contest, like whatever. And it's like he's Mr. Wonderful, and it was just good. Just YouTube it. It's horrible.
I'm not going to do that. I'm gonna be honest.
Your listeners, YouTube it. Look, misery loves company. Okay.
Yeah.
I'm just
no. It's
so. But anyway, Orndorff, when he was talking to Gary Spivey and doubting himself, he said that he used to be the highest rated wrestler in the entire world, and he had so many belts he couldn't carry them all.
I feel like that isn't true.
I can't remember one belt he ever had. That's not a knock on Orndorff, but like what?
Call in if you know any belts that Paul Orndorff. That's the great mystery. Has he ever won a championship?
Yeah, that Phantom title in Rio Linda or whatever.
Yeah, he lost to Hogan at WrestleMania 1, right? And
he was part of the tag match. He faced at the big event. He faced Hogan for the world title there too, and also lost. So
yeah, I mean, great career for Mr. Wonderful. I'm not going to.
Yeah,
this isn't the Fuck Paul Orndorff podcast, but
he was a great heel.
In 1995, I don't really care to watch him kiss his own face in a mirror, personally.
No, I'm passing on all that.
And am I remembering correctly, or did he leave like a lipstick stain on the mirror when he kissed it?
I don't think so.
Maybe it was just general moisture.
Yeah, maybe, but I don't remember that part. I just remember he came out to the ring like kissing the mirror and looking at himself while that god awful song played. And
well, he's wonderful. You see.
Yeah, and we were supposed to give a shit.
Well, you know what is also wonderful. It's the Renegade.
This next match. Oh yeah.
God.
Good God.
Fuck. The hits just keep on coming. We got the television title is on the line here. The champion of the Renegade, accompanied by Jimmy Hart, versus Diamond Dallas Page, accompanied by the Diamond Doll and Max Muscle. What a cast of characters out here.
$10 for anybody that tells me who Max Muscle is.
Well, you see, he has muscle.
To the max.
Oh, come on now. We're cooking.
Yeah.
But yeah. So we got Diamond Dallas Page somehow looking more ridiculous than the Renegade does. What the cigar, the glasses, the what how would you describe his attire? It's like a one piece like jumpsuit kinda.
Yeah, like he's like he looked at like a diving outfit and was like, I could do something with this.
Mm-hmm.
And then he made it somehow look dumber.
It's like if you're creating a wrestler in a video game and you're like in a rush. Like that's what comes out is this version of DDP.
And then you'd go, God, I'm not uploading this to Community Creations.
Yeah. And let's add a little context here. So DDP is fresh off a red hot feud with Elax, which is David Sullivan, if you're not aware, the brother of Kevin
Evad.
Sullivan. Fuck, who's Elax is a Ring of Honor wrestler. That's just as ridiculous. But Evad, you're right. You're right. Thank you.
Yeah, because that's Dave spelled backwards as Evad, I guess.
Oh shit. It is. Wow, I never you just blew my mind there. Okay. All right. Now it makes sense. Now it, well, it doesn't, but it kind of does. I forget exactly what happened in the feud, but I think DDP ended up fucking his rabbit. I'm paraphrasing.
Yeah, it involved a lot of arm wrestling and rabbits. And,
yeah. But
that rabbit in its cage got punt kicked by Brian Pillman about a year later.
Oh man. What's his name? Ralph the rabbit, of course.
Oh god, I didn't even know it had a name. So
We just have a pet rabbit and not name it. You're just talking silliness.
Yeah, that's where it falls off the cliff for me.
Right. The name. That's when you just couldn't invest your time into it. That's
yeah, right. Like, well, if you're not going to take this seriously, why should I?
Come on now. Yeah. But the Diamond Doll's here, and then there's an underlying theme where she's getting abused, I guess, by DDP, at least verbally. I don't know what they're doing behind closed doors. I think she was in love with Evad. There was the whole thing. Threesome with the rabbit.
In love with her for sure. Yeah.
So, Renegade and DDP are in there doing something. I guess you would call it wrestling. Every time DDP does a move, he points at the Diamond Doll. And he's like, hold it up. And then the doll has these various cards with the number 10 on it. And she would hold it up, but she's very unenthusiastic about it. You got
another one of his, we talked, I brought up, I said, Johnny B. Bad was a walking bag of gimmicks. Like, good Lord, DDP. It's like he fell into the box of gimmicks and pulled out everything.
It's like every stereotypical heel, like wrestling gimmick is like you said, he just combines them all.
And they all suck.
Yeah, very bad. But Renegade's busting out. He busts out like a cartwheel backsplash in the corner, which is pretty impressive. Maybe he should have been a gymnast instead of a wrestler. Follows it up with a double axe handle off the top rope. But then towards the end of the match, Max Muscle, which for just to remind everybody, he has a lot of muscles to the max, to your point, Troy.
Yeah.
And so Max Muscle, he's on the apron. Renegade sends Dallas into Muscle, knocking him off the apron, which allows Renegade to give Dallas a power slam. And then he goes to the top rope to follow it up with a splash. But he stupidly decides just to dive onto Max Muscle instead, who's standing on the outside. And as Renegade gets back in the ring, Max holds his ankles, and this allows DDP to hit the diamond cutter onto Renegade as he's like half in the ring. And this gives DDP the win, and we have a new TV champion, much to the chagrin of the Diamond Doll. So, yeah, good stuff, right?
Sure.
All right, next match we got.
This oh my god, you talk about feathers and caps, man. Beating the Renegade on pay-per-view.
I think he was undefeated at this point, if I remember correctly. At least on pay-per-view he was.
I joke, but they tried to do something with this dude. Like God knows why. Well, because he looked like the Ultimate Warrior. That's why.
Wait, hold on. You telling me that there's influence from the Ultimate Warrior in the character Renegade?
I believe before he was introduced, Hulk Hogan called him his ultimate surprise.
And then they had like the silhouette that looked exactly like Ultimate Warrior, and then you got this asshole runs out.
Yeah, it's like when you order Ultimate Warrior off of Wish.
Yeah.
It just, and I don't know why I always have to say this so people don't get pissed off, but I know the guy committed suicide. He's not with us anymore. I'm not shitting on the man, shitting on the character. It was awful.
Yeah.
And he was a bad wrestler. Arn Anderson described it as wrestling a cement mixer.
God, yeah, I forgot Arn Anderson had a match against him too. Yeah, he really was just
Multiple.
put in. I mean, you had to put him in with like a seasoned veteran that knew what they were doing. Otherwise, it would just go off the rails. AKA this match.
Man, for all the dirty crap that Arn Anderson pulled while he was part of the Horsemen, like, you know, him putting over the Renegade multiple times just erased all of that. It was like, you know what? You're not such a bad dude after all, man.
Yeah. Yeah. A lot going on there. But,
Meltzer called this match, he said it was like Terry Funk wrestling a broom kind of routine, because he said like Page had nothing to work with, yet somehow he made it not completely like barf inducing.
Yeah. Yeah. We shit on DDP's character, but in the ring, he was fine. You know, even at this point, he still had a lot of character elements to figure out, and he would figure it out and would become arguably the biggest like homegrown guy that WCW ever produced. So
he'd shed like one gimmick per month there for a couple of years until he got down to the bare minimum.
Mm-hmm.
And he was finally just wrestling in jeans.
Sometimes it's what you gotta do. It's what you gotta do. But man, I know what you might be thinking, man. That was a lot of bullshit right in a row. So we're bound to have something good next, right? Well, not really.
You'd be wrong.
We got the tag team titles on the line. The Stud Stable, the team of Bunkhouse Buck and Dirty Dick Slater.
Hell yeah.
Accompanied by Colonel Robert Parker, of course. So we got the Stud Stable versus Harlem Heat with Sister Sherry. So I'm gonna be honest, this match is boring as fuck, and I would have rather just watched a porn between Colonel Parker and Sherry. Those are my thoughts on it. What about yours?
Well, on the one side, you had, you had a Dirty Dick, and you also had Bunkhouse Buck and Dick Slater. So it just, God, I'll tell you what, man, I see Jimmy Golden / Bunkhouse Buck on the marquee, and my ass is in the seat.
Yeah,
I don't know about you, man.
Well, that's what everybody knows about you, is that you're a bunk star.
Oh yeah, I am a huge mark for Bunkhouse Buck and his goddamn widow's peak and dressing like a prospector and shit.
He's from Tennessee, so that means we hate him. I think that's his character.
This whole thing just like this, the Stud Stable sucked.
It's very bad.
I heard at one point Dick Slater was good. I don't know.
So that's what they say. I will say this, Bunkhouse Buck did have some pretty good matches with Dustin Rhodes, like a year before this, like bunkhouse matches and bull rope matches. They were, fun, bloody brawls, but otherwise, not a lot of value.
Got his shirt ripped off every damn night. Yeah.
Gotta see that beautiful body.
Yeah.
But I mean, in this match, Booker T, very much stuck out as the star in this match.
He's the only one in this match that gave it. Well, Sherry is not technically in the match, so like, if you had to count her, Booker and Sherry are the only two people I gave a damn about around this run. I like Stevie Ray is gonna go down in history as being famous for tagging in Booker T.
Yeah.
I don't give a damn about the other two over the hill gang there. Yeah, I don't know. This was bad. Harlem Heat just didn't have much until the Steiner brothers came along.
They needed a team to work with, for sure.
Yeah, they get these guys and then the effing Nasty Boys. Like,
you're not going to besmirch the Nasty Boys on this podcast. First of all, we're the boys.
We're
the boys. Nasty Boys. All right, go ahead. What was up?
My dad met them at an
I'm
airport
sorry.
in Atlanta, and he said Knobs is like super cool,
Yeah.
and Sags doesn't really say much. He just kind of sits there and like nods along. Oh my God, I never once gave a shit about the Nasty Boys or anything they ever did. When they came into TNA and they built up this dream match between them and Team 3D, I'm like, whose dream?
It's a wet dream.
God, not in their prime would I give a shit about this.
Well,
So I don't know. Poor Harlem Heat, man. I mean, Stevie sucked, but poor Booker T, I'll say.
I liked the Harlem Heat as a tandem, but to your point, if they didn't have a good team to work with, the matches weren't really there. They had a great presence to them. The promos were great. The whole act of Sister Sherry, I loved it. But once the bell rings, it's, I haven't seen a ton of great Harlem Heat matches yet.
Yeah, I just watched back Spring Stampede. Excuse me, Spring Stampede '97, where Booker infamously drops the N-word during his promo talking about Hulk Hogan. So that was fun.
How's that go?
Yeah, yeah. Listening to the when I cover it, I dance around it. So there you go.
Hogan, we're gonna get you. But the match. So I should mention the underlying storyline here is that I guess Sherry hit her head at some point and got amnesia. Which I don't hear about people getting amnesia nowadays. That seemed like a very 90s occurrence. It's like quicksand. You don't really hear about it anymore. But
did they remake Overboard or whatever the hell, where somebody falls off the side of a boat and gets amnesia?
Probably.
I think they remade that recently. So that's like before then. I think the last time I'd heard of it was that whatever movie with where Jim Carrey got amnesia and they thought he was a soldier returning home.
Was that Me, Myself, and Irene?
The Majestic. That was it.
Oh, okay.
Yeah. Sorry, side tangent.
No, you're good. I'd rather talk about that in this match. But so Sherry, I guess, hit her head and now is in love with Colonel Parker. So the match is happening, and remember, there's 2 rings. So while the match is plodding along in one ring, and the opposite ring, you got Sherry on one side of the ring, Colonel Parker on the other side. They both get on the opposite aprons. They catch each other's eye. They get in the ring. They walk into the middle, and then Colonel Parker just starts mouth fucking. They start making out, kissing all over the face.
Like rabbits.
There we go. There we go.
Everybody. Yeah.
Like Ralph. And
God.
So they're making out in one ring, and in the other ring, the Nasty Boys are here. Your favorite. I guess at some point Dick Slater lost one of his boots. So I think it's Knobs grabs his boot. Yeah, of course. Knobs grabs his boot and hits Dick Slater in the face with it. And one of the Harlem Heat guys covers him. And we got new tag team champions, the Harlem Heat, as Parker and Sherry continue to go at it. And we'll catch up with that situation in 9 months and see where we're at. So,
yeah.
Yeah.
She's fired. That's where we're at.
Does she get fired after this?
I think I'm being serious too. They did let her go at one point.
You never really know with Sherry Martel, but yeah. Any other thoughts on these shenanigans?
Oh God. Where do I begin? I don't know. I mean, I give it 2 stars. I think I overrated it. I was trying to be nice.
Yeah, it was like fine, but to me it was just boring, and I couldn't get invested in it.
No, I didn't give a shit about this feud or anybody in it.
Yeah,
and I will say, in the hierarchy of tag teams, I mean, I just shit all over Nasty Boys, but I'd put them above the Bushwhackers at least. So there's that.
Yeah, that's fair.
Not to get off on a sidebar, but I was at WrestleCon in 2018, the year that the Bushwhackers went in the Hall of Fame.
Mm-hmm.
And I was out waiting in line for something, and my co-host Greg went in the restroom, came back and said, I don't remember which bushwhacker it is. It's not on crutches. What he said. I just saw it. He took a shit and then walked straight out of the bathroom without washing his hands. So, so he said, "Don't go like if you go to get his autograph, don't go shaking his hand." I was like, "Yeah," because I'm gonna make a beeline for the goddamn bushwhackers. Like, he said, "Good point," and we went about our day.
Hey man, the bushwhacker fecal matter on your hand, that could go for a lot of money.
And this is pre-COVID too, so I could have been patient zero.
Yeah. All started with the bushwhackers.
Yeah. But no, this thing, man, I really didn't take any personal notes on it other than I thought Dave Meltzer was a little brutal on it. He gave it -1 star. I didn't feel it was that damn bad.
Yeah, I mean, yeah, like I said, it wasn't bad. There was just no emotion. There was no the story sucked. The feud
Wow.
sucked.
I mean, it was bad. It just wasn't like horrible bad. It was just like,
yeah,
this isn't good kind of bad.
right. I don't need this on my pay-per-view screen, basically.
Yeah, I'm like, this should have been on Nitro or Worldwide or whatever the F. Don't like, why are you making me pay for this shit?
Yeah, exactly. But at least we get Colonel Parker and Sherry making out. So,
oh yeah, that's pay-per-view worthy.
Yeah, it sure is. But finally, we got some competent wrestling on our hands now. Arn Anderson versus Ric Flair.
Wouldn't you know, a match broke out on the show.
Wow, just wrestling on my bullshit show.
What's going on?
I would actually like to see where Paul Orndorff is. I'd like an update on that, please.
Yeah.
But we got so the Horsemen, essentially, I don't know if they've broken up necessarily. There's just a lot of tension between the two.
They're on hiatus.
They're on a hiatus, absolutely. But from the video package, it seemed like it was Hulk Hogan's fault because ever since Hulk Hogan debuted in WCW, Ric Flair has been pretty unhinged. He's kind of unseated as from the #1 spot, and even lost his job at one point. When he lost to Hogan in a steel cage and had to retire. When lasted
let's not forget about the time he showed up in the crowd dressed in drag.
Of course, to attack Macho Man, because that was totally necessary. Lipstick and all.
No, it was during a strap match between Hogan and Vader.
Was it? Oh yeah, it was.
Yeah, because Hogan dragged Flair around the ring to touch the 4 turnbuckles, and I was like, "What the shit is this?"
That was uncensored, I believe. If I'm remembering correctly.
It might have. No. What was the other bullshit that happened in Uncensored? I'm sorry. I try to block that out of my mind.
Uncensored is probably the worst show I've ever seen thus far. They had the King of the Road match, of course.
Oh God.
You had Harlem Heat and Nasty Boys fighting in a concession stand, squirting each other with mustard.
Yeah.
And that's just the tip of the iceberg.
Well, 95 and 96 are just classics, man. Because 96 was that like 3-tiered cage. Remember the Alliance to End Hulkamania?
I've only seen the Ready to Rumble. So does
this one was like 3 equally sized cages stacked up, and Hogan and Savage started on the top cage and had to battle their way down through like 200 guys.
Well, that sounds fantastic.
It sucked.
Oh, that's a shame.
You're right, by the way. It was uncensored. God, I blocked that so far out of my brain.
I just remember that show being just shit from start to finish, and that was just the icing on the cake.
Hey, man, that was their competition with WrestleMania. I mean, that was awesome.
I don't know if that was even better or worse than WrestleMania 11, though. I'm going to be honest. So,
yeah, I mean, who needs Bam Bam and LT when you've got, this shit?
Yeah, God. But we got Arn Anderson versus Ric Flair here, and the story, in general. Arn Anderson, he's basically been the guy backing Rick up for years and years, and feels he doesn't have the respect from Flair that he has from everybody else. And Flair's like untrust kind of building between them, and Flair wants to prove that he's worth being the guy for Arn to back up. Essentially, am I missing anything on the backstory?
No, these are probably some of the best promos, and that's a crowded field, but some of the best promos Arn Anderson ever cut.
Oh
Um,
yeah,
and I always said the other members of the Horsemen, specific, not all of them, but specifically Arn and Tully, would have been bigger in the wrestling landscape if they weren't backing up Ric Flair.
yeah,
But at the same time, I don't know if they would have reached because he kind of dragged them in a way to be top guys. So I don't
yeah.
know.
We'll never really know.
Anything coming behind Flair is going to look less than.
Mm-hmm.
So that's why Arn and Tully, I think, aren't remembered as well. But Arn was fantastic.
Oh, so good. His promos are really good too, which doesn't get talked about enough.
His promos to this day are great.
Yeah, got
So
his Glock out, man.
yeah, he does some good stuff. It's sad to see, and he talked about the neck surgery that ended his career and everything. It's sad, and you can see it in his hand, like his hand's like paralyzed, whatever.
Mm-hmm.
Effing sucks, but unfortunately, we see that with a lot of wrestlers that were once great.
Yeah, yeah. But yeah, this match, I mean, naturally, it's a very good match. You have a bunch of wrestlers in the audience. They're really building this to be like a classic wrestling match. Eddie Guerrero, by the way, in the audience, which is a fun little cameo.
They had a few guys come out, like
Boss Man was
WCW.
out there.
Yeah,
Johnny B.
WCW did
Bad.
that a few times. Yeah, with like the crowd, or not the crowd, the locker rooms unloading,
Yeah,
like people watching up close and personal.
that's a cool little touch. Makes it feel like a big deal.
I don't think WWF ever did anything like that ever.
No, they do the little things where they'll like walk out and appear and then leave, but yeah.
Or people watching a monitor backstage.
Right. Or they'll just say people are watching the monitors backstage.
Right.
But yeah, it's kind of what you would expect from this match. You have Flair working the leg, you have Arn working the arm. They're playing off of how well they know each other. So, like for example, Flair gets flipped into the corner, does the little flip thing over the top rope, and he always does that. And he sprints to the opposite corner, climbs it for the axe handle. But before he could reach the other corner, Arn charges at him. But Flair was thinking one step ahead and pulled the top rope down. And so Arn charged and went to the outside. So little things like that I liked from this match. And then towards the end, you have Flair. He locks in the figure four, but Arn blocks it with his hands, so he prevents the other leg from coming down, which is a cool little touch. You don't really see that a lot as a way to block the figure four. And naturally, you get the reversing the pressure by flipping over, and but towards the end, Brian Pillman's back. He was another one of the guys that they showed watching the match in the crowd. He gets on the apron. He tries to distract Flair, but Flair's like, whatever. So Pillman punches him in the side of the head, and Flair walks right into a DDT from Arn Anderson for the win. So Arn gets the win over his leader, I suppose. And definitely, I mean, with all the stuff that's the rest of the stuff on this card, this is a diamond in the rough, to say the least.
I gave it 4 stars when I watched it. I thought it was fantastic.
Yeah.
There's a part where Rick locks in the figure four, and him and Arn are like shouting and going back and forth, and he like spits on Arn. And
Yeah.
It was good stuff, man. I mean, these two just like went at it. I couldn't help but think, though, that if Vince Russo was booking this, he'd have all this built up in anticipation for months of all this planning and the promos and everything. And then they get in the ring about to lock it up. And then they just like smile and hug it out. And the audience would be pissed. All that.
Yeah.
Swerve, bro.
Bro, they'll never see it coming, bro.
Yeah, right.
But yeah, really good stuff. And again, like they're really trying to drive home the fact that Brian Pillman's a big deal. I don't know what pans out after that with Pillman.
He does join the Horsemen.
Okay. Okay. So it's a little, and I know like by the time like the summer, probably even earlier of 96, they're all back together. So, but a good little hiatus, like you said, and fun to see these guys lock up when you don't normally see that.
I want to say they get back together right after this. Like, it doesn't go much further.
Yeah. That sounds about right.
Pillman, I don't know if you ever saw, he actually wore a Four Horsemen t-shirt in WWF a couple of times.
Did he?
Yeah, I'm like, shit. Like, that would never get past today.
Nah, Vince doesn't know who the Four Horsemen are.
Which one is Tully? God damn it.
But, oh, man. Well, we're here. The main event of Fall Brawl, of course, is the War Games match. So we got the Hulkamaniacs, the team of Hulk Hogan, Lex Luger, Randy Savage, and Sting versus the Dungeon of Doom, the team of Kamala, Meng, the Shark, and Zodiac, accompanied by the Taskmaster.
Please tell me you're going to talk about these promos before the match.
I rewatched it because I watched it the first time and I was like, what? So I watched it again and it didn't make any sense to me the second time. Can you like explain what happened here? People
can find the Kevin Sullivan, because I've actually searched for this shit. Don't ask me why, but you can find the Kevin Sullivan promo. It might still be up on YouTube by itself. If I dropped a ton of acid and smoked about a pound of weed, I couldn't have come up with this shit. I was like, what the hell am I watching?
And nothing he's saying like makes sense. Like,
and he's got all these trippy lights and shit. I'm pretty sure that's the one, right? Where he's got the light show and shit. And he's just saying, load up the death wagon. And I'm like, what the?
Yeah.
The one-eyed raven, brother. Like, I don't think he says it. He was saying the shit like it made sense. And I'm like, yeah, sure. One-eyed raven, death wagon. Cool. Whatever.
Yeah, I'm with you. It's just funny watching because we see gimmicks like this. I don't know, like Wyatt family or just spooky gimmicks of factions and just people in general cutting promos and vignettes. And it's just funny to see like a very like rudimentary, like not without all the effects. I mean, they had like effects, but it was just like so bare bones, and like you could hear what he's saying, and it's like it doesn't really. There's a lot of words that aren't amounting to anything here.
Yeah, they all came out of the freaking cave they were in. You remember those promos in the cave?
Oh, of course. Yeah, the dungeon.
Yeah, Sullivan, my son, and that was all good stuff. My favorite was when Hulk Hogan does his master class in acting when he gets teleported there or whatever the fuck. And
where am I?
Yeah, there are no Hulkamaniacs here. like what? Okay, first of all, how do you know?
Yeah,
that there are no
assumption.
Can you feel it? Is it like the Spidey sense?
Oh yeah, it runs through his new tricep vein that he always brings up in every show. He always has a new tricep vein.
Yeah, right.
But I don't know what was worse, the video package of the Dungeon of Doom or this. I already said it before, but it's legitimately a cocaine induced. I'm sorry. Agent Orange induced, according to Hulk Hogan.
God.
Promo from the Hulkamaniacs. I mean, I was watching this and I was ready to run through a wall after watching that. It was probably the most hype shit I've ever seen in my life.
Well, the first thing I'm like, I know it always says, because anytime I bring this shit up on my podcast, my co-host is like, hey, card subject to change. I'm like, yeah, but if you know like weeks and months in advance, you're still advertising this shit. Yeah, come on, man. They said that Vader went AWOL. It's like, no, you mean Paul Orndorff beat the shit out of him backstage and they fired his ass.
Well, it's not totally a lie.
He went AWOL. Yeah, okay. So Sting voted for Lex Luger to be part of the team, so that's fun.
Is it?
Yeah. I guess I'm a fan of Luger's. I don't know. That's not a popular opinion, but I was always a
Yeah,
Luger fan.
he's okay.
But yeah, that to your point, that freaking promo, dude, where Hogan's like, "We just drank a couple of gallons of Agent Orange, dude," and I'm like, that's not advisable.
Now, like, all these kids are going to be getting into their parents' Agent Orange stash and chugging it. And it's just the whole thing.
Yeah, he was like, "Well, that makes us impervious to pain, brother," and I'm like, I don't think you know how Agent Orange works.
I don't think you know anything about anything, Mr. Hulkster.
Yeah, and oh my gosh, they've all got camo on, so that's cool.
Well, they're going to war, you see.
Oh yeah, I like that. But Hogan said he looked into Luger's eyes and he could tell he's American made from head to toe.
Yeah.
So I guess that means he's trustworthy.
Right. Well, the underlying story is, can Lex Luger be trusted? Because they're very transparent with the fact that I think they described it as he's come to WCW from behind enemy lines. And of course, he was like one of the first big, jumps from WWF to WCW. And we're fresh off of his debut. So it's still a thing like, oh, are you really with us? Or are you just a mole or whatever?
You ever hear about that? Like when he showed up on Nitro, I guess the WWF crew was like flying to their next destination. They weren't watching live because Raw was taped.
Mm-hmm.
And when they landed, Bruce Pritchard said he got a call from Pat Patterson. He's like, "Oh, you never guess who showed up on Nitro? Luger." He's like, "Fuck him. He's their problem now."
It's not like Luger was lighting the world on fire in this past, like last year in WWF anyways. So
nobody that's the weird thing. If you ever notice, anybody who dealt with him in WWF hated him. Anybody who dealt with him in WCW doesn't hardly have a bad word to say about him.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. I mean, as a person, no judgment from me, but he's really just Kmart Hulk Hogan, really, when it comes down to it.
Well, Sting had the best part of this whole promo,
what was that?
As Hogan's talking, Sting just runs by the camera and goes, "Woo!" and that's it.
It really is just a lot of yelling, a lot of steroids, a lot of yelling, lots of veins.
Sweat.
Oh yeah,
big meaty men smacking meat.
God damn, man! This is like it's hype though. I mean, Macho's like, "Oh, there's no dissension in the ranks," and then Sting's like, "I'm sick and tired of talking." Luger's like, bumbling over his words because he's Lex Luger. And then
if you watch any Sting promo from like 90, probably mid 94 to mid 96, most of them consist of "I ain't got nothing to say" or "I'm done talking" or whatever. It's like, so do you just not like promos? Like, what's going on?
Sting's fascinating because he's not very good at anything, but he's so like his energy is just off the charts and he's so believable that people love him. And I just love, especially like his early stuff. I just love watching him.
Yeah, I think at like Starrcade 93, he like congratulated Flair. I think that was the show. It was, sorry, I'm getting my shows mixed up.
No, you're good.
But somebody came before him to congratulate, I want to say it was Flair, and they said something, and then he comes afterwards, and you could tell the person before him said anything that needed to be said, so he's just like fumbling around for just shit to fill time. Yeah. And Sting's not the kind of guy you want out there just winging it on the mic.
It's very, very, yeah. He speaks with his actions. And once he found a gimmick where he didn't talk, that's when he skyrocketed. So
he didn't say a word for a year and like blew up.
Yeah.
And then the first words he says after not speaking for a year is he looks in the camera and goes, "Mamacita."
I would listen to Sting just talk about anything for hours
and get randomly hype. Yeah.
Yes. But the Hulkamaniacs are ready to destroy the Dungeon of Doom. And if the Hulkamaniacs win, then that means Hulk Hogan gets the Taskmaster, aka Kevin Sullivan, alone in the ring for 5 minutes. So those are the stakes here.
There's just always a stipulation one way or another with Kevin Sullivan matches.
It's really funny though, because he's been wrestling, like he's been a wrestler for the past year. Yeah. So it's like, oh no, I gotta go wrestle a guy that's had a War Games match. Like, oh no. But
I know, I was going to say, a guy who's been wrestling for well over a decade, it's like, oh no, I'm fresh as a daisy and I got to go in for 5 minutes with a guy who just got the shit beat out of him in a War Games match. Whatever will I do? Kevin Sullivan sucked, man.
he's the worst. Fuck Kevin
I
Sullivan.
never liked Sevens. From what I heard, he's great backstage. I don't give a shit about anything he ever did in the ring.
Oh man, because I mean, I started this WCW rewatch at Spring Stampede '94, and he's had a match on almost every pay per view. A lot of them
God
with
knows
Dave
why.
Sullivan. Oh man,
Yeah, both of them suck.
Mr. T came into the picture at one point. That was the whole thing.
Oh God, I forgot about that. Yeah. Well, he was always getting creepy with the ladies. And, you know, because if you go back in 88, 89, it was him and I think it was 88. Him and the Varsity Club would go after Jimmy Garvin and Precious. And he was like always locking himself alone in a cage with her and shit. And that's what I said. It's like, why is this always a stipulation of his matches? Like Sullivan alone with somebody in a cage for 5 minutes. Like, what the F are you going to do with her, man?
Oh, Kevin Sullivan just built like a guy that belongs in a cage, you know? So
he looks like Danny DeVito with blonde hair.
How dare you besmirch the name of Danny DeVito?
Yeah, right. You got me for 5 minutes.
Honestly, I don't have a lot of notes on the match itself because ultimately it's just a lot of mindless nonsense.
Yeah.
But can we talk about the cage for a second? So the cage comes down, right, with the sketchiest pyro I've ever seen in my life. On top of the cage is just like there's no like rhythm to it. It's just explosions on top of the cage.
That's the best part. It's unpredictable.
The fact that it didn't fall from the sky is enough to be a win as far as the show goes.
Oh yeah.
So you know, and then naturally, you know, in these War Games matches, you have your two workhorses start the match. So the Hulkamaniacs have Sting. The Dungeon of Doom have Shark.
Yeah, because you know, if there's a dude I want being my Iron Man, fucking Shark.
The cardio in this John Tenta fella. I mean, he's
who they announced, by the way, at 540 pounds. He's like half the size he was as Earthquake.
Yeah, but when you add gills and fins to your body, those are very dense components.
Yeah.
So
he's not a fish. He's a man.
Is that what he said?
That's when he became John Tenta. Yeah, he's like, I'm not a fish. I'm a man.
That's a hard gimmick to come out. I mean, I guess when you were Earthquake, it's not that far fetched, but
God, yeah.
Well, he's a shark, so he's biting his opponent. Sting here, he's just biting his arm because I don't know if you heard, he's a shark. He smells he smells blood. So and there's, you know, the War Games nowadays, you just kind of like win an advantage, and then it's just, you know, people come out, but this time there's like a coin toss, which they never show.
Something tells me those coin tosses aren't legit because the Horsemen have never lost.
They know how to work it.
They're like 500-0.
The luck on these horses, they have horseshoes, right?
Yeah.
There's a joke somewhere. We'll add it in post. But
pause for editing.
But yeah, so the match happens, people get in there, and then it's over. So
Shark was also blown up in 5 minutes, by the way.
Well, he's not in water, so they don't survive.
God, why didn't I think of that? You're right.
You're really just a silly goose. I mean,
it's right in front of me. It's so obvious.
It's like you're not even paying attention. Fucking yeah, Luger and everybody's in the ring at the end, because of course you can't win the match until everybody's in the match, and you can only win by submission or surrender, which I think is a cool little element that
the match beyond.
Yeah, of course. At some point, Luger and Savage start fighting with each other. I missed what happened. I didn't really care enough to rewind. But I guess there was some sort of miscommunication. Somebody hit somebody.
Yeah, Luger accidentally hit him, and that set him off.
Right. Hogan comes in because of course he's the last person in, because why wouldn't he be? Comes in with powder. Was a mysterious white powder. Because he had some left over.
Babyface.
Yeah. And just powder, like it's endless powder. He's just powdering everybody in the eyes. Just a lot of stuff going on. No really rhyme or reason to anything happening. Hogan eventually makes the Zodiac submit via the camel clutch. Broke his back and made him humble. Let me tell you.
Irony, huh?
Yeah. But yeah,
Well,
so yeah,
I guess he kind of made him submit because he yelled, yes, no, yes, no, no, yes. And they were like, sure, he's quitting. Yeah, ring the bell.
Yeah. Yeah, I like it. So the Taskmaster tries to run away because they're like, I gotta get in the ring with them for 5 minutes. And they chase him.
Shouldn't have ate this meal before coming out.
Had a carbo load. And then
he needs it.
he's loaded already. But
oh God.
So eventually Sullivan gets in the cage with Hogan. They start going. Hogan starts beating on him. And then the Giant comes in somehow.
Yeah.
I forget. How does he get in the cage? Does he like rip the door open or something? Or was it even closed?
The Giant comes out. He moves. He just like I don't remember. He. I don't know. Rips.
Or does he? Does he take his monster truck and run through the cage?
Oh God. Yeah. That I think he just because I forgot to write it down. I think he just ripped the damn door off the hinges.
I saw Kevin Sullivan in the ring, and I was like, "Let me look at my phone for a few minutes," and then I look up, and then the Big Show's there, breaking the neck of Hogan, I guess, because you see a little bit of murder
for like the first time.
Yeah, which I totally forgot to bring out the monster truck in the beginning. I guess earlier in the day, Hogan was out there with his Hulkamaniacs, a pep rally of sorts on his motorcycle. And then the Giant turns the corner in a monster truck and runs over Hulk Hogan's motorcycle with this monster truck.
Was this the show? God, they're all running together. I knew that happened at one point, and I was like, this is the goofiest shit.
Well, we have.
You're right. This is God. Yeah.
Yeah, we have the official monster truck match at Halloween Havoc, I believe, right?
Yeah, we'll call it a match.
Is that when the Yeti comes and butt fucks Hogan into submission?
Yeah. They, one in the front, one in the back, man.
That's how they do it.
They sandwich Hulk Hogan.
Man,
that was the show where where Hogan went off on Dave Meltzer, where he like held up a piece of paper and he was like, observe this. And then he like threw the paper in the fire.
Showed him. So yeah, the Giant comes in, he beats down Hogan, like twists his neck and leaves him laying. Hulkamaniacs run off the Giant, and that's pretty much how the show ends, with Hogan just a corpse in the ring. And got some monster trucks coming up in a few months. So yeah, good stuff. Fall Brawl 95.
Nobody gave a shit about the 5 minutes because nobody gave a shit about Kevin Sullivan. So they're like, whatever, who cares?
Yeah.
Michael Buffer saying over the house speakers, we need paramedics down here. Like that was.
I can't stand Michael Buffer. I don't know what it is. It's the way the man to my left corner in the red trunks filed his taxes last week. Just random facts about each. I don't know. He's just so much.
My favorite announcing was, it might have been the Finger Poke of Doom show when Kevin Nash comes to the ring and he has a Cody Rhodes level of pyro behind him, to the point of where he stopped, looked back, and was like, whoa. And then he kept walking. Michael Buffer says something, I'm going to paraphrase here, but it's basically, he's a citizen of, he calls himself a citizen of Detroit, but his accolades make him a citizen of the world. And I'm like, the fuck does that mean?
Those are just words.
I'm like, that doesn't, like, you're literally just like dragging it out. Like, did you write this down and you're reading it?
It's like you didn't know how the sentence was going to end. Yeah, it's very bad. It's like he was buffing for time or something.
And I point this out on my show because, like, Conrad Thompson actually ruined this for me. And the more I'm watching, I'm like, God dang it, he's right. Hogan has always just been a big shit heel.
Yeah.
If you ever watch his matches, he gouges eyes, he rakes backs, he chokes with his wrist tape. He even as a babyface, he used that damn weight belt. Here
Yeah.
he's using, and I know it's anything goes, whatever, who gives a shit, but the babyface is going to come in right away, just start powdering people in the eyes. What a dick!
Well, it's a war. You see, I mean, anything goes in love and war was what they say.
Yeah, but it's like the dude, like the strongest man in the world with the biggest pythons, whatever, is going to come in and just start powdering people in the face. Like,
But the thing is,
wait, what?
Hulk Hogan is merely a human, whereas you have true monsters in Kamala. I mean, he's a Ugandan giant. You have
Yeah,
what do they call Ming? His stupid headdress,
the face of terror.
the face
Or
of
the-
terror.
I think that was, I wrote it down.
It's the face
It
of
was
terror.
effing stupid. Yeah,
I mean, sharks are huge.
yeah. This was the first show of the entire year, by the way, that Mang wasn't wrestling in a suit.
Well, he's had some classics against Jim Duggan.
Yeah. If WCW really was the who gives a shit crew back at this time, man.
Dude, look, at least this show did not have Jim Duggan walking around there with his stupid stick and his stupid shorts and his stupid, and it runs at him, hits him and pins him.
Well, are you ready? Are you ready here? I think coming up here real soon, he's about to start a feud with Big Bubba over. It's
God.
a taped fist feud because like Jim Duggan finds out he's got like Irish taped fist fighters in his heritage somewhere, so now he's gonna start fighting with taped fists.
I could go for an hour on this taped fist nonsense because he just had a taped fist match with, I think it was Ming. But so the premise of taped fists is that you tape your fists and so it like protects them but also it creates like a surface that could cut you open easier, I believe, or at least you could punch more. It doesn't add power to your punches. So Jim Duggan will just take the tape, wrap it around his fist really like you're about to wipe his ass with toilet paper and just punch his opponent like they're fucking brass knuckles. It's like, no, dude, just take your stupid 2x4 that you bring out with you and hit him with it, not your stupid piece of tape.
Yeah, I think it was, and he's another one. He's a dumbass and a
Jim
dick.
Duggan.
Like there was, I want to say it was WrestleMania 3. Yeah, it was WrestleMania 3. He was like seconding a tag team against Koloff and Iron Sheik, and just out of nowhere he gets in the ring and freaking blast Sheik in the back with his 2x4. And it's like, what a dick! Like Sheik wasn't even breaking the rules.
Yeah,
and then he's like, if you don't play fair, neither will we. I'm like, what the fuck did they do?
USA.
You're just like, yeah. He's like, well, you're not from here, therefore you're bad.
Yeah, you dirty.
Yeah.
Edit slur here. But yeah, Jim Duggan can eat my ass. But well, I guess, first of all, Fall Brawl 95. I mean, we've talked a lot about it. Any other overall thoughts on the show?
It was slightly above average. That last match, I was somewhat entertained just because it took place between two cages.
Yeah.
That was about it. The opening match, the Flair and Anderson match, those were both really good.
Mm-hmm.
And DDP made his match watchable.
So yeah, again, just it's like a shit meadow with some flowers sprouting out of it. So, yeah,
yep,
good stuff. But yeah, what is not a shit meadow? It's the main event marks. Thank you once again for making the time to come on the show, revisit your notes of your previous recap and come talk about it. Where can everybody find you and listen to you guys?
Well, the easiest place is just to go to our link tree. It's linktr.ee/main event marks. We got all of our social media on there, as well as our anywhere you can listen to the podcast and our merchandise stores and all that. It's real easy. And our YouTube, I post new stuff on there almost daily. I actually took a pause from working on YouTube content to hop on here. So that's youtube.com/c/main event marks podcast, because somebody I think already took main event marks. So
what an asshole.
I know, right? They're not the real main event marks. We are. We're not just marks. We're main event marks.
Once again, thank you to Troy from the Main Event Marks podcast for joining me on this stupendous episode of the Apron Bump. Go check out Troy and the rest of the Main Event Marks boys wherever you listen to podcasts. All their info in the description. Really, really fun podcast to listen to. So go check it out. And apronbump.com for all my full episodes. Apron Bump on Twitter, apron_bump on Instagram, although I don't really use that anymore. But yeah, I think that's about it. That's all Daddy has for you today. Man, what a time. You know, I had a like a year ago or whatever. I bought a zip up tank top that was camo, right? Because I was thinking, I was like, oh, it'd be funny to wear some camo for the YouTube viewers, but I don't really have any camo. I started talking like this is going to be an interesting story, and it's like, oh, I don't think it is. But it was a small zip up tank top. It would have been funny, right? Right? Would have been. Too bad it wasn't. That's all I got for you. No cats to interrupt here. Got the door closed. Just my own pussy. So I can't just be like, hey, thanks for coming, everybody. Good night. Yeah. Thanks for coming, everybody. Good night. Take care of yourselves. Take care of each other. Take care of your ball sacks. Unless you're neutered.
Yeah.
I'm hard.
It's the hardest. Talk around and disregard it. Strip you off the ground, show you what hard is. Standing strong and proud, nothing knock it. Let's get it started. It's the hardest. Talk around and disregard it. Strip you off the ground, show you what hard is.